All right. Welcome to another episode of Fantasy Football MBAs, where that stands for matchups, breakdowns, and analysis, where we help you graduate to fantasy football champion. This is week 7 of the NFL schedule. I am your host, 1/3 of the trifecta, T. Campbell Online. This week, we are minus Steve. He's out, and we are carrying the load, the heavy load that he's left behind.
Definitely.
And I got my main man. Introduce yourself for us.
Eric J in the house, week 7, baby.
Week 7. So me and EJ are holding the fort down while Steve is out. And we're going to have some fun this week, man. Obviously, this week, more injuries. Week 6, some more teams, lost. So we're going to go ahead and kick things off and give you guys a preview of week 7. Now, again, if you guys have been following the channel, Fantasy Football MBAs on Instagram as well as on YouTube, each week we're going to show you, break down the starts and the sits, but we're going to break the episode down into 2 different parts. So part 1, we're going to talk about everything from the first game on Sunday up to about the midpoint. And then we're going to give you a second show that's going to break down the remainder games through Sunday and Monday Night Football. So we're going to go ahead and get it kicked off.
All right. So first game we got Detroit, ATL.
All right.
So I'll let you talk a little bit about Atlanta, because it was definitely an interesting game for them last week. So I will give you guys credit because you've talked about the Julio effect on the whole team, and I'll let you go into that a little bit later. But I'm going to start with the Lions this week, and I actually like Matt Stafford in this one. I think this is going to be one of those games where it's kind of like Stafford versus Matt Ryan throwing the ball. So if you got, Stafford, Galladay, I definitely like those two, especially. Also, Atlanta is allowing about 330 pass yards a game. So if there's
330 passes a game, not just the yards, 330 passes. Yeah.
So if there's ever a game, to start, Stafford and some receivers, I would definitely roll with him and Galladay. And I finally saw a good game from DeAndre Swift last week. He had 116 rushing yards last week. I don't think he's going to do that again, but I think he'll get you about 100 total yards. He finally looked like he was fitting in. And as long as, they continue to have a similar game plan, I think, he can have some similar success this week. But I don't think he's going to rush for 116. I don't think that'll happen again. And then kind of going to the other side now, to the Atlanta side, I definitely, you guys called it. Like when Julio plays, they just look like a different team. I would definitely, obviously, Julio again, Matt Ryan and Ridley, definitely playing them. I think the only person I don't like as much in this game is Todd Gurley. He kind of had a tough game last week just because of the way the game plan unfolded. And I don't think it's because he's bad or anything like that. I just think now that they've got the passing game going, I think they're probably going to kind of ride that momentum. And I think Detroit is actually decent against the run. So I'd still play him, but I'd kind of temper your expectations, with Gurley this week. But I'll let you kind of dive into Atlanta and because that wasn't the same team that I've been seeing the past few weeks.
Nah, and listen, folks, it is no secret. I'm a diehard Atlanta Falcons fan, heavy on the die. So they do this, seemingly the last couple of years where they'll start the year off just terrible, then out of nowhere they'll start winning games. Defense just comes to life all of a sudden. This last week they played like a team possessed. They played like they were playing to keep their coach's job, which is what they should have did the week before if they were trying to keep their coach's job. But I digress. In this game, last week, Hayden Hurst snuck to the end zone, sneaky touchdown. I don't like him long term. If you have him, and you have to play him because somebody else is on bye, this might be a week to do so. To your point, EJ, I think Gurley may struggle a bit, but his struggle will look like what most people's average game looks like. I mean, when he performs well, which is a touchdown to 65 yards. That's an average game for most people. That's a good game for Gurley. I don't see that happening this week. I do see, to your point, this is going to be a Stafford versus Ryan slugfest, and it's going to boil down to which quarterback makes mistakes. Which quarterback is gonna be mistake prone with either giving up bad sacks, Matt Ryan, bad sacks, or either throwing picks. And that's Stafford's forte. But if the Atlanta defense comes out like they did last week, I'm giving the edge to the Atlanta team in this game. But 1 week out of probably 7 or 8 is not getting me jazzed up. But again, they did this last year where they started 0-4, and then all of a sudden they turned around and went on a streak where Atlanta's defense was all of a sudden a streaming defense to pick up in fantasy. So I don't like Hurst in this game. I do like Hawkinson, Swift, but I also like Adrian Peterson in this game. So if you have him, I think this is a good game to start him because he's still able to get to the outside, and that's where the Atlanta defense is vulnerable. Up in the middle, not so much. At least not last week. But we'll see. We'll see. That's who I like. On the fringe. Obviously, I also I'll be interested to see if Russell Gage gets back involved. He had some good catches last week in that win, and we'll see what he's able to do. If you have him, maybe he's a sneaky flex if you're desperate. But other than that, the usual suspects I'm going to go with, like you said.
Definitely. All right. Well, next game we got Cleveland and Cincinnati. And starting on the side of Cleveland, I think this team is trending in the wrong direction. Right now, I feel like I can really only trust OBJ. He didn't have a great game last week, but I think he'll have a better game this week. I was listening to him. He says something crazy this week, like him and COVID have like a mutual respect
Right.
for each other.
Like, I don't mess with him. He don't mess with me. We speak and pass, and that's it. That's it.
I like his confidence going into this game, so I'm rolling with him partially off of that. And I would say Kareem Hunt, as long as his rib injury like doesn't flare up, so something I would keep an eye on. And the reason for that is Cincinnati is actually allowing the 14th most points to the running back position, and I think he could have a good game against them this week, as long as he's not bothered by the ribs. But I think he practiced today, and I think he had a little bit of work yesterday. So signs are pointing to him playing this week. So I like his chances. Going to the other side of the ball, the first question I wanted to ask, because we talked about this early in the season, AJ Green. So
yeah, that was cute. That was cute.
Last week, he finally showed some life. I think he had 8 catches, 96 yards, and even the other receivers, Boyd and T. Higgins, were able to do well. And it's hard for me to remember. I know there's been trios in the past that have been able to, get off on a consistent basis, but I don't know. I think this was just one of those games. AJ Green, I really like T. Higgins. I think he's going to be
T. Higgins.
He's going to turn into a really good football player. Tyler Boyd, I think, is always going to be consistent. But I wanted to get your thoughts on AJ Green and what you thought about that.
He hasn't played in a while. Obviously, he had fresher legs. I would have to see 3 weeks of decent play before I'm back believing that I can play him even at a flex. Obviously, he has a pedigree, so it feels right to start him. If he's healthy, start him. But he's just been his play has been so bad that why would you when there are better options? Even on his own team, there are better options. If you are in a league where people don't watch football and T. Higgins is still available, please grab him. Please play him. He's the fast becoming the number one producing wide receiver in Cincy, at least. And as far as target shares, he's definitely, right there with leading the team and in production for sure. But the green game, yeah, I mean, he's a professional, and what we say in football, any given Sunday, somebody could pull it together, and you were on the other side of the hill, and one game you got 2.5 sacks. It's like, oh, he back, and yeah, no, it just was he was able to gut it out and get something done in that one game. Still, didn't find the end zone, but this week, it's a softer matchup as well. So if it's real, I can see him, maybe going for, 5, 6 catches, and 70 yards, even without a touchdown. That would be good enough for me to say, okay, you have my attention, gentlemen. You have my attention. Now I'm listening, or now I'm interested. Whatever it was from Django. Yeah, yeah. But yeah.
Well, yeah, no, and I think it's Joe, because Joe Burrow, he had a good start and then like started looking like a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just one of the things to take into account, like when you have a team like this, one of the things to watch, and one of the things like I noticed is that Cincinnati takes a lot of sacks.
Mm-hmm.
And that, obviously, if you're getting sacked, you can't throw the ball down the field to your receiver. So it's just something I'm going to keep an eye on, especially because I think he's taken a pretty good amount of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they got, Myles Garrett on the other side, who's been,
Right.
tearing things up. So he's
Mm-hmm.
definitely something to watch out for. And then I think, of course, Mixon, you still play him on the side
absolutely.
of Cincinnati. He's one of yours. Every week you got to play him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm with it.
Next game, got Pittsburgh and Tennessee. And I'm gonna start, and I gotta just apologize to Tannehill for doubting him again. I lost a game last week because I started Allen instead of Tannehill. And you know what?
Yeah.
I've been, like you said, we talked about it last week, a prisoner of the past. He's figured it out in whatever it is like they're doing right now. Like it seems like he's in complete control of what
Looks
they have.
comfortable, doesn't look, frazzled, and getting another weapon this week as well. Coming off the COVID list, I see, continued success for Tennessee, man.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you had brought that up. I was going to say Humphreys, I think is just a really good play. I was looking at something. I think he's gotten like 6 targets in every game he's played.
Okay.
So definitely, like him paired up with Tannehill. Henry, of course, going to do his thing. AJ Brown. One person I would keep an eye on, and this is another reason I lost last week. So last week I have Waller on the bench at tight end, so I have to play Jonnu, and Jonnu gets hurt. And this other guy, Ferkser, comes in and gets like, I think he had like a touchdown. He had like 100 yards or something.
Yeah, had 16 yards.
I think if you have Jonnu, you just got to see if he's going to play this week. And I think the good thing is, even if he doesn't play, this other guy looks like you could just plug him in and he's going to, pick up the slack. That was one of the big things I noticed last week. One of the other reasons I took that L.
But you like that, man.
Other side of the ball, man, Chase Claypool, like who would have thought like this guy he's out of this world. Like
he's doing better juju than juju.
Man, and he's just dead. Like I don't know what happened. He's gone. I mean, I think he caught 2 passes for like 8 yards or something.
I mean, but if you fell in love with the moment, 4 touchdowns for the best wide receiver in football is not going to happen every week. You name who the best wide receiver is in football, and they're not going to give you 2 weeks of multiple touchdowns. That's very hard to do in this league. So if bought hard on Claypool, um, you fell in love with the moment. You know.
Yeah. And I would say even this week, like, Big Ben last week, he didn't have, the greatest game statistically because they kind of rolled in that game. But I like him this week because even though Tennessee's defense, like last year, they were, like one of those really good defenses, like they can be thrown on this year and people, have proven that. So I definitely like Big Ben, James Conner, and then I believe one of their other receivers, I think it's Deontay Johnson, is coming back this week. So I might even, give him, a chance as well in this game, especially since Tennessee, they pretty strong, against the run, but people have been throwing on them,
Right.
a little bit more than last year. So I definitely like Big Ben, like Claypool and Deontay Johnson, as long as, he's healthy and, he comes back and his old self, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a second option. Anything else on this one?
No, that's it.
All right. And then the next game, another thorn in my side. So we got Carolina and New Orleans. And the Mike Thomas saga, it continues. It's killing me.
Yes, sir.
It is. I was banking on him big time in one of my fantasy leagues this year. He was, I think, my first pick in the draft because of where I ended up, and just the injury, the discipline issues. I'm a little worried now. I was a little worried last week. Now I'm really worried because I just don't know where it's going right now.
Is there a possibility that Mike Thomas is not happy in New Orleans?
I think so.
How can it be though? I mean, like that's a really good situation to be in.
I just wish I knew what changed from last year till now. That's really obviously besides getting hurt, and I know sometimes that messes with people, but
right,
it's killing me. But if you're an owner of Emmanuel Sanders and Kamara, you can rejoice because their production, I think, with as long as he continues to be out, those two are going to thrive. I mean, those are really, the only options they have. I know Sanders, he was getting off to kind of a rough start this year, but he looks like he's starting to settle in. And I was, critical of Drew Brees, as a lot of people are. Obviously, the arm strength is not there. But when I looked at it, he actually has 9 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions. And he's been doing a lot of this without Mike Thomas. So probably, maybe need to give him more credit, than we've been giving him. The other, I guess, part of their offense, that I'm always trying to figure out, still haven't quite put a finger on it. They seem to, come up with like a third option every game, whether it's Jared Cook, Traquan Smith. Unfortunately, those two are like the definition of boom or bust. So absolutely. I can't really trust either of them at this point. But I do like Drew Brees, definitely Sanders and Kamara. And then as far as Carolina goes, I would, of course, play Mike Davis because obviously he's in that McCaffrey role.
Yes, sir.
But the one thing I did notice, like they played the Bears last week, who are a pretty tough defense. And the thing is, New Orleans against the run is kind of, I guess, like the Bears. They're tough against the ground game, only allowing about 3.6 yards a carry. So Davis did not have his best game last week, and he might be in for a similar thing because New Orleans has been playing the run pretty tough. But as far as airing the ball out, I think if you got Carolina receivers, this is definitely a game. You want to play DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. Saints have allowed 15 passing touchdowns, and I think they've allowed the 4th most points to fantasy quarterbacks. So you might even be able to get away with Bridgewater, who's, I think, been a little bit better than average. So I think, he would have a good week as well.
Yeah, man. I have to disagree with you on Davis. I'm a Davis owner. And he, like you did say, he literally has been just inserted into the McCaffrey role. And if you think about it, McCaffrey is a Swiss Army knife. He catches a lot of balls. And that's exactly how they're going to use Davis against the New Orleans defense. It won't be just a lot of straight runs and off of pads. He's going to be basically catching the swing passes, the quick drops. There's going to be a lot of that. They're going to use him just like an extra wide receiver. Um, Now on the New Orleans side, man, I don't know why the Jared Cook thing hasn't materialized with Michael Thomas out.
Yeah.
It's very puzzling, just like how Emmanuel Sanders at the beginning of the year just wasn't working, and even still to this point, he has increased his production, but he hasn't been able to find the end zone. So that keeps Latavius Murray in the conversation. Obviously Kamara, but it's like for the first time in a very long time, Sean Payton doesn't look creative.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it's like they can't figure out what to do with Taysom Hill. And it's every time they bring him in for this wildcat formation, you're thinking, watch this right here. And it's just a quarterback keeper. It's not even like a double or triple option, or he's not throwing from that position. It's always a run, seemingly. And it's like, when did that happen?
Yeah.
COVID took some of Sean Payton's creativity out. That's what happened. CDC needs to take note of that. Like, oh, your creativity can be lost after having COVID, because he just doesn't seem to be like, the play calling is kind of blocked. Very nothing downfield. That may have more to do with Drew Brees' arm, but it's not a lot of shots to open up the offense. To maybe even have some of that creativity. So it's but they're still in second place. So
yeah, no, I think if you have Sanders and Kamara, you're happy you continue to ride the wave, and right. If you're like me with Mike Thomas, you're hoping, I don't know, something changes.
Man, I almost gave away the farm for a Michael Thomas trade a couple of weeks ago, because I was thinking, oh, the ankle sprain is just going to be something quick, and I bet the house, and thank God it was rejected. But boy, I would have been sick if I was a Thomas owner. It's such a big hole to fill, and their team is so different. It's just like Julio Jones in Atlanta. When he's on the field, it just feels different. It looks different. Everything seems to work when those pieces are in place. But
gotcha. Perfect.
Yeah. All right. That's all you got this week, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're gonna go with Buffalo and the Jets. So this is the battle for New York. No, it's not. It's not. Buffalo owns New York. The other teams are terrible. And this is no exception. For this game, those John Brown owners really pay attention to the injury report. He's showing questionable again. I've said it. I'm gonna keep running this joke. That man needs some more thighs. He need to go to Popeyes. Need to go to Church's. Give him an 8-piece dog. He need more thighs. That quadricep femoris is bad on him. It's bad on him. So he's questionable again. If he is out, this is definitely a week if you're a Cole Beasley owner to insert him into the mix. He's been, good when in relief of John Brown. The Jets are giving up about 22 fantasy points to the wide receiver position. And again, Beasley's even, because Brown has missed so much time, Beasley's second in yardage on the team. So, that's where I would go with that. On the Brown side, staying there for a moment, last year, we talk about the sophomore slump. And, it's like, is it real? Is it not? Sophomore slump and Madden curse, right?
Yeah.
Singletary this year just doesn't look like the same running back. I don't know if it's an issue with the offensive line or what. He's serviceable, but he doesn't look like the same back.
He's nothing more than a flex. I have, of course, another player who I was so high on, who I have in one of my things. He's a serviceable flex. right
Yeah,
now.
I mean, but last year he was, he could have easily been an RB2.
Oh
Easily.
yeah,
The whole year, just set it and forget it.
that's exactly what I wanted him for. But
Yeah. I don't know what's going on there. Obviously, again, on the Buffalo side, you're going to play your guys, Diggs and, as you, what you call them, light skinned,
oh, the light skin Cam,
light
and
skinned Cam, Josh Allen.
yes,
So now you said in the pre-show meeting you had something you want to add on Allen. What you got?
so I actually, this is a question that I wanted to pose to you because in one of my leagues right now, so I started off 3-0,
Okay.
lost the last three, like been getting killed with injuries. So I'm at a turning point right now, and it involves Josh Allen. So my quarterbacks are Josh Allen and Tannehill in this league.
Okay.
This week, Tannehill is obviously, going up against Pittsburgh, tougher defense, but he is a really good command of his offense. Josh Allen, he's kind of been on a little bit of a slide the last few games, but he's going against the Jets.
Hmm.
So if you had to choose between Allen and Tannehill this week, who would you play?
Yeah, that because of the matchup, that one is easy. I'm going with Allen
Gotcha.
because the Jets haven't been able to stop anybody at all. And worst case scenario, he just won't turn the ball over. And
Yeah.
he'll have, the stats to be padded. And because Singletary is not gonna just take the game over
That's what I'm
where,
thinking. Yeah.
where it's like, well, they didn't even have to pass a lot because Singletary had 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. I don't see that even with the Jets defense being terrible. But I would definitely go with Allen because, Pittsburgh has a decent defense, even though they're going to have their hands full this week because the Tennessee offense is rolling. It used to always be the other way around, that they always had a better defense than the offense. Offense was just kind of serviceable, but
Yeah.
like they're clicking, man. That is a good play. They're in a good place. Tennessee is, but yeah, I would definitely go with Allen this week over
Definitely.
Tannehill. All right. So next up, we got Dallas Cowboys against the Washington Football Team. This is the week the Cowboys fans have been waiting for on defense all year. The return of Randy Gregory. This man was, I think, second on the team the last time he played in sacks in 2018, I think it was. Multiple suspensions. Hopefully, this time he gets it right. He's able to stay on the field and be productive. They brought back Alden Smith. His first game back, he had an immediate impact, on the game. I don't expect, anything less than that going against a Washington team that has been porous, allowing defenses to get to their quarterback. Um, and I don't think it's going to be much different. Now, I don't see the Cowboys all of a sudden defense just coming to life. Like this isn't the Cowboys defense to like blow it up against the Washington football team, but I do think they're going to make it difficult for the quarterback position this week. It may not result in a bunch of sacks and turnovers, interceptions, but I think it'll be enough to rattle and pressure the quarterback there in Washington. Now, from a running back standpoint, obviously, you're gonna go with your guy there in Dallas because the running back position is averaging a really robust 4 yards a carry against the Washington team. Now, although they are averaging about 4 yards a carry, running backs are against Washington. They haven't given up touchdowns on the ground, or many touchdowns on the ground. Where they are vulnerable though is through the air because wide receivers are averaging a respectable 17 fantasy points against the Washington defense. So in this game, because their run defense is decent, haven't given up many touchdowns, Zeke is still going to get yardage, but I like Schultz in this game to kind of keep the chains moving and maybe even some sneaky touchdown. The Red Raider, Andy Dalton, still doesn't look comfortable in the offense.
Yeah.
I'm a CD Lamb owner. CD's just he's a grown man, so he gets open, and the stat line eventually looks decent. but if it were a more able quarterback, it would be he would get the ball further and more accurate. So his stats have gone down. Cooper the same way. Um, he needs to get it together. This is a good time to do so. This is in a divisional game, so Andy Dalton really he doesn't have anybody behind him pushing him at this point. Is his team? This is his showcase. Really, if he thought that at some point this is it, I'm never going to be a starter again. Okay, I get it, but he, maybe in a better situation, he could be a serviceable starter, maybe a transitional guy where they're bringing in him for 1 or 2 years, and then they're going to bring up a younger quarterback to take over the franchise. But he has to get it together. He hasn't looked good thus far. Um, so, that for that reason, if you are on a buy and Dalton is available, he definitely is available out there. This might be a week to give it a go. There are better options. There are better options. Most likely available. Gardner Minshew's probably out there, but if you had to, and let's say he was already on your bench, and you don't have anybody to drop to pick up other than him, then maybe. But on the Washington side, Gibson, McLaurin, those guys are there, but they don't really have a lot going on offense. They haven't had that all year.
Yeah.
So
Although
what you got?
I would say for McLaurin, like I have him in one of my leagues, and like I was like when Haskins went out and they stopped pushing the ball down the field. Definitely like that first game, I was like, ugh, like I don't know what this is gonna be like. I feel actually a little bit better about McLaurin watching their last game. Of course, disclaimer, they did play the Giants in the last game. But he was targeted 12 times, which is encouraging. I think he's still going to get his targets, but I'm still concerned about like the kinds of passes he's going to get because even on those 12 targets, he had 74 yards, but they're just not pushing the ball, and that's where I think McLaurin really excels. So I think until they figure it out, he's like a wide receiver 3, but I think he'll give you solid production. I think he could give you 60 to 70 yards a week, as long as they keep feeding him like that. And because I think they're going to be losing a lot.
Yeah, and the Dallas defense has been vulnerable all year,
Oh yeah.
and vulnerable is a nice way of putting it.
Yeah. I'm
And
definitely playing him this week for sure.
right, but it begs the question, man. It's floating around on the internet. With black quarterbacks, why does black quarterbacks get such a short leash? And Dwayne Haskins, it's like they're really bad without him. Now they weren't good with him.
Yeah.
They weren't sneaking up on anybody or like it was he was taking the lumps he needed to take in order to grow. I think what they've done stunts his maturation in the league.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, excuse me, what kind of expectations did y'all have in Washington?
Yeah, nah, they definitely undercut him before he could even get a chance to really, do his thing. And like you said, it's unfortunately, like you said, it's true. I think the hook for black quarterbacks it's a lot shorter, and he's really under that microscope. And I think it's also magnified. Like he's from that area, so I think everything they used against him, they fully put it on. But like you said, it just doesn't look the same. And I see other young quarterbacks, both for their teams and fantasy purposes, they let Burrow push the ball down the field. Herbert he's throwing all over the place.
He's a little different though. He's pretty good.
Yes, no, he's playing well. But
Yeah.
I'm just like, if you don't let them, take shots, it's gonna be more checkdowns to Gibson and quick drag routes to McLaurin, which are only gonna take you so far.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I just, it's just kind of unfair. And then, I'm reading and hearing that, he's all but out of there, at the end of this season. And I think it was too much too soon, and
Yeah.
they gave up too soon. It's like, again, what expectations did you have with the players that you rostered this year, and let go? So I don't see how that was fair. But so that's gonna wrap us for this episode 1, week 7, guys. Again, um, come back and check us out. We got week 7, part 2 coming up, where we're going to finish the breakdown, starts and sits on your fantasy for week 7, taking you through Sunday and Monday night football. And check us out, man. We're out there. We're still getting our Spotify thing straight. We're going to be all right. We're going to get our Apple thing right. And we're going to be back
Be up in
there.
social media, though. We're coming up.
But make sure you check us out on social media. On Instagram, we on that gram at Fantasy Football MBAs, and also you can check us out on YouTube. We got shorts, and me making a fool of myself, and our episodes are there. Again, Fantasy Football MBAs on YouTube as well. And we really appreciate the feedback. We're seeing you guys are out, in the comments, and ask us, your questions. If you have a dilemma, or if you're playing daily fantasy, or whether whatever type of fantasy you guys are playing, whether there's side bets with you and your cousin, just hit us up, DM us, or hit us in the comments, and we're posting there on Instagram, and you can also do so on YouTube. So we look forward to seeing you guys with part 2 coming up, and we'll anything else you got, EJ?
That's it for this one.
All right, brothers. Y'all take care. We out.